Should we put the gain down? Gaining clarity be like, should we put the gain down? No? Wow, I'm in a particularly good mood. This is what happens when you take some rest days. Rest is so freaking important, but I'll get into that. Welcome back to another episode of Gaining Clarity. It's been a hot second. I was taking a little break because, not that anyone, actually, some people do care, alright? I'm starting to acquire a loyal fan base. And let me manifest it by saying thank you to those people that listen, express my gratitude because I genuinely do appreciate it. We're throwing out those old beliefs, old mindsets. This would be a good opportunity. You might have seen the episode before this. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm starting a series, but it's a 4-episode series. Each episode is a 2-parter. I am doing one video episode and then one podcast episode because in 25 days, I am leaving to travel the world. If you're seeing my face for the very first time and you haven't heard this mouth open ever before, let me give you a little backstory. So 2 years ago or so, I traveled solo for the first time to Kauai, Hawaii. It was a spontaneous sort of trip. I don't know what inspired me to take the trip or implored me to do it. I think I was just at home. I wasn't in college. And so I was like, what am I going to do? Let me go travel. And I discovered this beautiful website called Workaway, which is a work exchange website. It's a very well-known work exchange website. And I decided to apply to like a bunch of different places in Hawaii and other places. And I only got one response out of all the applications I sent out. And that's the place I ended up going, which honestly, it was like the golden ticket. I always refer to it as this Workaway experience. Shout out to you, Sarah, and your family. They welcomed me with warm and open arms, and it made for such a beautiful base level, like knowing that I could have an experience like that again, rather than starting off with a terrible experience and not knowing if there's anything better out there, right? And just starting off with that was such a beautiful introduction into the world. And you know, I was 18 at the time, so I didn't really know much. I was still finding myself. I was just starting to find myself. And this experience was everything I could ask for and everything I didn't even know I needed. So ever since then, I ended up coming home 3 months later. I was traveling for like 3 months, 2 months in Hawaii, because I ended up doing another workaway experience with someone else, which wasn't as awesome as the first one, but it is what it is. You can't win them all. And then afterwards, I ended up going to Washington State to meet up with a friend, and then to California to meet up with another friend. So I spent 2 weeks in one place, 2 weeks in another, just staying with friends, which was awesome because I didn't really have the funds to stay anywhere else. So I spent 3 months traveling. And then eventually I came home because I think I was just like done, you know? Especially if it's your first time traveling. You might notice at a certain point you burn out, and for me it was the 3-month mark. I was just so like exhausted, you know. I was constantly staying with people. I just wanted to be alone. I wanted my alone time, which could have been achieved. I could have like booked a hotel room or something and continued on, but honestly I'm glad I came home because that was a great first learning experience for travel, and now I know what to expect. I know what I would do differently, so I have that sort of under my belt. So coming this time around, let me just tell you of my plans. So originally, I was going to go to Slovakia and then maybe do a little bit of traveling around Europe, just for a little bit, but I was going to come back. I think eventually when I booked the ticket, I booked a one-way with the intention of still coming back. But then a few days later, my mom came to me and she sat me down and she basically gave me her blessing, which absolutely meant the world to me. I don't want to go too into detail with it because it was a pretty intimate moment between me and her that doesn't need to be shared. But let's just say that in that moment, I felt so many emotions in one. I felt a lot of grief for my life here because she basically told me, like, with love, with so much love, to go and not come back until I find myself, which to receive that kind of blessing from a parent is all you could ever ask for. You don't want to leave with knowing that there's any bad blood or any, you know, them not wanting you to go. You want to leave with love still being there. You want to leave with knowing they support you every step of the way. That's all you ever want from a parent or someone who loves you, and I feel so blessed. And in that moment, it all felt so real for the very first time, and it also felt really scary for the first time, because to know that I'm gonna leave and not come back, it's like, oh my gosh, so much can happen, anything can happen. But either way, like, this is what I've wanted. Like, I have told every single person I know, all I want to do is travel, all I want to do is travel. And so now it's time to stop talking about it and to just do it, you know? I've been talking about it so much, and I feel like the universe, or whatever higher power you might believe in, I talk about her like the universe. I like to think about it as the universe. That's my higher power. That's who I look up to. I feel like so many doors have opened, so many possibilities, opportunities, and I've just been like making excuses. And so finally, I feel like booking this ticket and making this decision and just doing it when I don't necessarily feel quote unquote ready. I just did it. This is no more of a right time than yesterday, than tomorrow. And so I'm gonna start off in Slovakia, and then I'm thinking about maybe going to Australia for a few months, see how I feel there, maybe do some work exchanges. I have a friend that's living there right now. I would love to see her again. She's the one I stayed with in California 2 years ago. Yeah, so a lot of exciting things to happen. But Australia, and then since I'll be in that neck of the woods, I'm thinking of exploring that part of the world, like Thailand, Indonesia, the typical yogi places, because ideally I would love to find some yoga jobs or mentorships. I just want to expand on this skill of mine and teaching and my own personal practice, because yoga has found its way to my life and it's not leaving anytime soon. So I would love to expand on that practice and meet like-minded people and kind of just grow in that area and really make something of myself, and as my mom said, like, find myself in a way. I found that living here at home, I was starting to grow roots and like build a life here, and that's not what I want. Like, I was starting to cement myself into the ground when that's not what I wanted. And so I think taking this step, finally just taking those roots out of the ground, saying not yet, I'm not ready to settle yet, because I'm 21. Okay, I think since I didn't go to college, I've constantly felt this pressure since the moment I graduated high school to really find something that stuck for me, especially since my parents are immigrant parents from Eastern Europe. Like, they're super hard workers, and what they did to get here to America was beyond comparison to what I'm doing now, which compared to where they were at their life when they were 21 versus what I'm doing now, I have it easy. And I know I have it easy. I'm extremely privileged. I'm extremely blessed. But that's not to say that it's taken me such a long time to like really be like, okay, my problems are valid, but also not exactly pity myself in that way. Like, use these strengths and use these privileges in a way that I can help others, but I don't know how yet. And I feel like I can figure that out by traveling. So when I come across an obstacle and when I want to come back home, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how, but I'm going to keep going because I have to figure it out. I have to keep going. I feel like I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I think it's important to preface this episode with like what I'm going to be doing, because I haven't officially announced it anywhere. Like, I sort of did on my Instagram and to my friends, but slowly but surely, as I feel more sure of what I'm going to be doing, I feel more confident in telling everyone that this is what I'm going to do. And so enough of that. Let's move on to episode 1 of this Getting My Shit Together series, or I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. But week 1 is focused all on health. So let's give you a little bit of more specific on what this means. So physical health, mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health. The 4 tiers of health. Just creating this holistic balance within myself so that when I do leave, I'm pretty much taken care of. Like, I don't want to be sick when I leave. Like, I've been sick these last few days, so I'm glad I'm getting it out of my system and my immunity is kind of building. I had a weekend out last weekend. Like, both days I was out, barely got any sleep. I've been working so much, and so definitely a little bit immunocompromised, but I got it out of my system, and I want to have fun, but it's definitely something I can't do every weekend or every day, because then my health will be compromised, and that's not what I want when I'm out and about traveling the world, because it's just, I feel like, complicated. Not that I wouldn't be able to get it done, but who wants to have health problems when they're traveling, right? So just stuff like exercising, getting my movement in every day, whatever that looks like, intuitive movement, eating, fixing my relationship with eating and food, which I actually want to talk about that really quick. So when I came back from my first travel, I was still struggling pretty severely with my eating disorder, and I think that I thought I was healing, but I wasn't. Like, I was still pretty deep into it. I did a video called Eating Like Freely the Banana Girl for 24 hours, and it was really well received, right? Because it's pretty niche, like a lot of people are into that, but I thought that would solve all my problems. Like, she literally promises you'll get a 6-pack she literally says, I'm 40 years old, I have a 6-pack, and all I eat is fruit. And that's great, but you live in the jungle, and that's your environment. And I remember at the time I was going through my health coach training, and everything I was learning was super contradictory to what I was gaining information from her. And so I was like battling these two viewpoints of like holistic health versus Freely the Banana Girl and her ideology. And it wasn't until after, when I went through the storm and I went through these trials and tribulations, that I was finally able to get clear on what I believed in and what my truth was. Because let me tell you this, all of our truths are going to be different. We all have our own truth, and Freely's truth is that fruit is healing and everyone is a fruititarian and that we should all eat that way. And, depending on your environment, that can be true, but not everyone lives in the environment she does. And that's a big factor in your health. You're not going to be eating all this fruit if you live in Antarctica. Think about it. It's not, first of all, it's not bioavailable. And even if you do get it, how natural is it? Is it locally sourced? Probably not. So all these environmental factors go into it. It's just so much, right? A lot of the things she says aren't inclusive of the entire world. Like, she has a very narrow view. I don't want to criticize her, but in a way, this is me going back and like telling myself, like, hey, this isn't the way. Especially since I was still struggling with my eating disorder. That was the complete opposite of what I should have been doing, because in a way it was still restricting myself to eating only fruit. It was telling myself that I had to eat healthy, I couldn't eat anything processed, I couldn't eat junk, blah, blah, blah. Going back into these mindsets and pushing myself further. And then what really, really just put the cherry on top was that I gained weight. A significant amount of weight in such a short period of time. I think I gained like 20 to 30 pounds over summer. So from June to August, I gained 20 to 30 pounds, which was the most I'd ever gained, and I was the heaviest I'd ever been. And to this day, I'm still trying to lose that weight, or still trying to return back to my normal weight, which is actually what I wanted to come back to right now. So up until a month ago, I was in a calorie deficit, working out, and a year later, I check in, I was doing the same thing I was doing all the time, I was working out, calorie deficit, same thing every single day. And I would take a break from the calorie deficit every few months or so, because it's not good to be in one for a very long time. And so a year later, after I started my fitness journey, whatever, I was at the same weight that I was from a year before. I lost 10 pounds. And in that year, I hadn't lost any more. And it ruined me. It was slowly but surely ruining me, because I had this goal and I wasn't meeting it. I had this expectation and I wasn't meeting it. And so I felt like a failure. I remember December 16th or something was like the day. And I remember writing in my journal, and I was like, I feel like such a failure. It's like all this work I've been putting in has been for nothing. I feel like I see no progress. I'm not where I want to be. A year is a long time to commit to something. Ever since then, I've kind of been changing the way I view my weight and myself, I would say I kept doing the same thing for a little bit, which obviously wasn't working. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, even though you see it's not working. And in the back of my mind, I've always had this thought, like, why don't I just go to intuitive eating? Like, it's worked for me before, or I dropped all these ideologies and just listened to my body and just ate without tracking anything, without really thinking about it, just focusing on whole foods, eating, the quote-unquote unhealthy stuff when I wanted in moderation, to kick those cravings. Like these basics that I used to follow, but I forgot about. And so a month ago, I was just done. I hit a new low. I went through this cycle. I was finishing this cycle. It was a super intense one. And what that cycle taught me was that a lot of the things I was doing weren't working for me anymore. And it was sort of like a reality check. Like, Clara, it doesn't work for you anymore. Why are you still doing it? So within that reality check was my whole ideology of calorie deficit, restricting, this thing that I've been so fucking exhausted by, and I hate it. I really do. You don't want to have to track everything or worry about like how many calories you're eating, blah blah blah. Like, I think it should be effortless. I think we should trust our bodies, and I think, if you want to go into fitness and be extreme, go for it. Track your calories, track your macros, do that. But that is just one example. That's not how it needs to be. That's not how fitness needs to be. I release that narrative. Like, it doesn't resonate with me anymore, and that's okay. And I think I've been so afraid to let go of that because it's something I grew up with, constantly following these other people, their advice. Yeah, like fucking Gymshark influencers posting what they eat in a day in a calorie deficit. It's like, all right, you do you, but that's not exactly healthy for a 15 or 16-year-old developing body going through puberty who is questioning her self-worth, And I think I'm really glad that I gained those 30 pounds 2 years ago, because I think it allowed my body to actually fully develop. Because when I started these eating disorder tendencies, I was a freshman in high school. So I was 14, and all those 4 years, I was constantly in a battle with my body, nourishing it, not nourishing it, nourishing, not nourishing it. And so I think when I finally allowed myself to eat and fuel with all these nutrients, even though it was a lot of food, I think that my body finally had the chance to catch up and fill in where the places where it needed to be, right? Becoming a woman, as cheesy as that sounds. Becoming a woman. Like, I started being fuller in more places than others. And, now that I've started eating intuitively, first of all, I feel less stressed, which is good for your health right there. I spend less time focusing on that, more time focusing on things that fuel me, that make me feel alive, that make me passionate. I have more energy for my workouts. That's a big one. I feel less guilt and shame. So moving on from this topic, all in all, I've moved on to intuitive eating. The whole calorie deficit thing doesn't work for me. I believe my weight will balance out to where it feels comfortable. I trust my body. I trust our bodies are so intelligent, and I think we've forgotten that. Amidst all the social media influencer advice, these people who, are they even qualified to tell us this stuff? Sit down with yourself. Ask your body what it needs. Your body knows. We've forgotten how intelligent our bodies are. And so that's the only nutritionist I want to listen to. That's the only influencer I want to listen to, is my body, because she knows what's best for her. I trust my body. Body sovereignty. Woo! So that's one of the big things that I've been shifting, along with exercise. That's a big one that I still haven't been able to shake, right? It's like, I have fitness goals. I want to achieve a certain aesthetic physique, but at the same time, I kind of just want to be healthy. Like, I just want to be in good health. I don't really care about the aesthetic per se. I just want to be able to have good endurance if I'm running away from danger. I want to be able to lift heavy things. I want to be able to, not have to gasp for air if I'm on a run. I just want to be in general in good health. And I think that's also something we've lost, is going for aesthetics, for whatever physique to look a certain way because of social media. So I'm also releasing that ideology. I kind of just want to exercise for health. I just want to be healthy. I think that's more important than anything, and we lose sight of that quite often. I think the rest will come after. Once you start releasing that narrative of you have to look a certain way, I think the rest will come. Once you start focusing on your health, it'll show. You know, your insides will eventually show on the outside. You're not going to look like you sit on the couch 7 days a week eating McDonald's if you work out and you eat whole foods. Like, that's not what's going to happen, you know, if you just completely abandon the idea of calorie restriction and following a workout plan. No. But I think a lot of us are afraid of that happening. I'm going to lay down for a sec. Just releasing those ideologies and like remembering what health really means. Holistic health is something that I've been learning has been interrupted and intercepted by all the noise. Like, this is a belief I've carried with me and I've known for so long, but it's been really difficult for me to hold on to because of all that added noise, because of all those outside voices telling me their perspective, their point of view, all this recycled information that might not necessarily even be true. I'm someone that's passionate about holistic health and just real health, more than just the aesthetics and the physical looks. Health is wealth. Something that's been said over and over again, something that we know truly to our core, but it's hard when you get wrapped up in day to day. Anyway, moving on from that, those were two main things I wanted to talk about, but meditation and yoga has been a big part of my life ever since I started my yoga teacher training. I mean, even 2 years ago, like ever since I started my spiritual awakening, I've been learning more about yoga and the origins, philosophy of yoga, history of yoga, learning more and more, finding my own practice, because that's important. If you don't establish a practice, then you lose it all. You just go back to where you started. So for me, it's been meditating every morning. I genuinely look forward to my meditations now. It's something I never thought I would say. Like literally 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes. I think I had this expectation at one point where I was like, I have to go up to 20, to 30, to 1 hour, which is great if you can get up there, and I think at a certain point I will. But right now, releasing that pressure for myself, like making this work first, it's been about 3 or 4 months of consecutive meditation. I think I miss a few days here and there, like if I'm not feeling well, aka if I'm hungover or if I'm sick, then I'll skip it. But I'll always find a way to just stop and breathe for 1 to 2 minutes a day. That's meditation. Meditation is basically just mindfulness, right? Being aware of what's happening in the moment without wanting to change it. Meditation is one-pointed focus, and also just being aware if your mind does wander, not scrutinizing yourself for your mind wandering. Awareness, mindfulness. I think that's really important for mental and emotional health as well, including physical health, to be honest. Breath work helps with exercise so much. Calming your nervous system down, reducing stress. So just establishing a practice, right? For me, it's been 10-minute meditations every morning because that's something I can do right now. And that practice might change and evolve in the future. Great, things always change and evolve, right? But right now, just establish something that works for you right now. And you can always add on to it later. But I used to start off with a lot in my routine, okay, first I do this, then I do that, then I do that. And then eventually I would lose it because it was so much stuff and I was just overwhelmed and I didn't want to do it all. So starting with this 10-minute meditation that hasn't even changed. Sometimes I'll meditate and then go on a walk with my dog. That'll be my sadhana. That'll for the morning, right? It's simple and definitely needs to change because I'm getting comfortable with it, and you can only grow if you get out of your comfort zone. But I just like to provide this example because some people think they can't meditate or can't do yoga or anything like that. But it's so important to establish some kind of ritual or routine for your mental and emotional health. And then I think the last thing I just wanted to talk about was creating routines and rituals I can carry with me. That kind of goes in with the yoga meditation. meditating every morning. I mean, wherever I go, I don't think I'll lose that. That's something that I'll carry with me. Maybe the meditations will last longer, but, waking up a little bit earlier to make sure I have time for myself. And depending where I am or what I'm doing, maybe even establishing a little bit of a yoga asana practice. That's something I've been wanting to incorporate, but there's a part of me that feels resistance because it's a change, right? It's different, it's new, so I'm scared. It's unfamiliar. So yoga asana, incorporating that. Just like 10-15 minutes of stretching, of poses that I do every single day, like the same poses. Maybe like a few sun salutations every day. I could do that. I think I'm going to start doing that. I just like to, in the morning, it's so special when you wake up early because it's time for you. Like, the whole world is still asleep and you're over here in silence and enjoying the silence. I think sometimes the most profound revelations come within silence. So meditating, stretching, asana, taking time to honor and reflect, spending time in the sun, being outside for a little bit, taking it slow, not rushing right into your day. That's something I value. Hydrating, that's something I do first thing in the morning or right after my practices. Going for a walk, getting a little bit of movement in. So yeah, that's week 1 wrapped up. Those are some of the things that I've been prioritizing and that have been really important to me. I mean, I think I mainly talked about the whole eating thing, but I mean, hey, it's important. We become what we consume. So start to consume something that resonates more with who you want to be. Know that you always have a choice to change how you think, change your beliefs, question your beliefs. Where is this coming from? Do I still believe this? Something I've been doing a lot recently, and it's so surprising the answers I come up with. But that's going to be it for today's episode. I'll see you guys next week for week 2, the to-do list, the technicalities, doing all the things, the planning, kind of making a little bit of a solid plan, but not too much because, I love to be spontaneous. So I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.